Hello, sports fans. This is Stephen Hill for JustMyPicks.com, and I'm bringing you a special NFL breakdown of the top 10 wide receivers for the 2013 season, upcoming predictions. A lot of these teams in the NFL are drafting wide receivers like crazy. A lot of these wide receivers have taken an elite status because the NFL has changed from a run-first league to a pass-first league. I'm going to bring you the top 10 players and some that didn't make the list but were close to making the list. I'm going to start number 1 in Detroit. Calvin Johnson, Megatron. He is a heck of a wide receiver. In all of my years of watching football, NFL, dating back from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and even now, I've never seen one wide receiver who could have 4, 5, 6 people around him and still make the catch. Calvin Johnson, whether it's short, whether it's long, he does all the things well that you want a wide receiver to do. Yes, he's lanky. Yes, he's tall. He has speed that you wouldn't think he has. He has one of those ranges where you just throw it anywhere near him and he's catching the football. Matthew Stafford and him broke Jerry Rice's records last year. You look at the team, they're talented. They have a solid defense, and they also have a good offense. When you look at him getting Nate Burleson back and you look at him getting Reggie Bush, I know that they're going to miss Titus Young playing with them at wide receiver, but Calvin Johnson is an explosive wide out. I don't think there's not one wide receiver in the NFL, and with the Detroit Lions throwing the ball the majority of the time, you know where the ball is going, and we saw last year you couldn't stop it time after time after time every single game. Calvin Johnson is a top wide receiver in the NFL, and he also broke the Madden cover jinx last year. I know that they didn't make the playoffs, but he had his best season by far last year after being on the Madden cover. Number 2, coming out of the Cincinnati Bengals, A.J.Green. Let's face it, the young wide receiver has set his place among a lot of the best wide receivers in the NFL. He has stepped up to the game. He has helped Andy Dalton and the Bengals be productive. He has helped them make the playoffs also a couple of years. A.J. Green is another one of those long, lanky wide receivers who he may not have the best speed in the world, but when he gets his hands on the football, it's a catch. He puts himself in positions to help his team win time after time after time. With Andy Dalton and his offense getting a little better, I think Marvin Lewis will trust him more to throw the ball to A.J. Green even more. I think that A.J. Green, if he can stay healthy, will be the second best wide receiver in the NFL this season. I want to see him produce a little bit more touchdowns. I feel like as an elite receiver, you need to start making those big touchdown catches and telling your teammates, hey, get me the ball in those red zone situations. I know that they have a solid team. I feel like the defense will be able to carry them throughout the season, but I think A.J. Green and Andy Dalton will be one of the great quarterback and wide receiver tandems of the NFL going in 2013. Coming in at number 3, the Atlanta Falcons wide receiver Julio Jones. He is truly a physical specimen, a man amongst boys. There is no corners that's going to single cover Julio Jones and shut him down. We saw last year, time after time, he bust games open. We saw him in the playoffs get crazy, just flat out nutty. And he did all those things having Tony Gonzalez, a Hall of Famer, Roddy White, a big game play guy, the other wide receiver, and Michael Turner. He's going to get more catches this year than I think he's ever gotten in his career. I think he's working harder. I think he's doing a lot more better. And I feel like the Atlanta Falcons, they have a trip to the Super Bowl if they can get Julio Jones the ball a lot in big game situations. Last year, they couldn't score the ball in the playoffs in the late game. But if they go to Julio Jones a lot more often and he can stay healthy, this will be a big dimension. And I think that he'll move up into the top 3 NFLs in wideouts in the NFL. For sure. Number 4, Wes Welker. He's trading quarterbacks from Tom Brady to Peyton Manning, and oh, how sweet it will be in Denver. Wes Welker will be, I think he will lead the NFL in catches this season as he's done so many years in the past with Tom Brady. I think that Peyton Manning is a better regular season quarterback than Tom Brady. I feel like he can catch a lot of balls in Denver because you have Eric Decker on one side and you also have baby Demaryius Thomas on the other side. You can easily get Wes Welker 100 catches in this offense. Plus, they run the ball so well and they will be ahead in so many games. Wes Welker will move the change with those 5- and 6-yard catches. He can also break out some of those 5- and 6-yard catches for 30, 40, 50, even 60-yard catches. And he's the king of yak. Yards after catch. He's doing all the little things, and we've seen him with Peyton Manning already in the offseason throwing 300 to 400 times a day at Duke University in Denver. You know, they're doing the things that Tom Brady and him used to do. So I think he's going to be a solid solid wide receiver at number 4, and I think he'll lead the league in catches also. Coming in at number 5, Percy Harvin. Percy Harvin, we saw him last year before he got hurt, play well. I think that he gave up with the Minnesota Vikings last season. I think he possibly could have came back. I think that Percy Harvin, with the right mentorship out there in Seattle, he will be dynamic. From punt return, kick return, he doesn't block as well. But when you get the ball in Percy Harvin's hands, he has the speed that kills. A lot of people talk about, oh, he's not big enough, oh, he's not strong enough. If you can't catch a guy, it's almost impossible for you to talk trash to him. So Percy Harvin, he's elusive. He gets off of jams very quickly, and he has that speed. Coming from the University of Florida, I didn't know what to think of him, but as you seen him last season, he had an MVP-like season before he got those injuries with Adrian Peterson in Minnesota. I think that having Sidney Rice, Tate, and I think that having Russell Wilson and Marshawn Lynch will also help him a lot more often. I think that he will lead all-purpose yards for all wide receivers or any type of halfback or running back in the NFL. I think that if he stays healthy, he has a chance to break the all-time, most all-purpose yards in a single season. Coming in at number 6, I know we talked about Julio Jones, but we got to talk about Roddy White. Roddy White is a big game receiver. He plays well with Matt Ryan. I know the only thing that they question is in prime time he doesn't show up. Well, I believe that this season the Atlanta Falcons having Julio Jones, Tony Gonzalez, Steven Jackson, and Roddy White will be very, very good. I think that they could potentially win the Super Bowl this season with Roddy White and Julio Jones. It's going to be a great season for him. I think that he'll just elevate his game, having those guys around him and playing better. I think that he really will have a lot of success in those football games, and I think that he's well deserved with this number 6 spot. Coming in at number 7, Brandon Marshall. Being the Bears' major threat in 60% of their offense, Brandon Marshall thrived last season. Even when Matt Forte went down and Michael Bush went down, you saw Jay Cutler potentially was going to only one player. I know he went to a lot of their other receivers sometimes, but Brandon Marshall, all he did was throw Hail Marys to him, and it seemed like he would catch them time and time again. Brandon Marshall has grown up and matured as a man. I know early on in his career with Denver and the Miami Dolphins, he's had trouble, but we haven't heard nothing but positive things since he's been in Chicago. I'm very proud of him with his mental health situation. I think Brandon Marshall is one of the best wide receivers in the game. He's also fast and physical. He's a little injury prone, but I think that he can put together a solid season for the Bears. I know they have a new coaching staff and a new regime in town. I think that with a healthy Matt Forte, this will do nothing but help Brandon Marshall into having a great season in 2013. Coming in at number 8, Michael Crabtree. I think that Colin Kaepernick really connected with Michael Crabtree after Alex Smith went down last season. I think that we saw him throughout the playoffs have a big impact. I know in the Super Bowl, a lot of people talk about that last play as him not making the play and him not being elite. He's not an elite receiver, but I think that he can begin to mold himself into that. Having Anquan Bolden as a mentor will do nothing but help him. I think it'll give him a physical edge on corners. Having someone like Anquan Bolden in your corner to teach you the tricks of the trade, Anquan, having learned from Larry Fitzgerald how to play physical and be a true student of the game and do all of the little things, really gave him an edge in Arizona and in Baltimore. I think that this will be key for the San Francisco 49ers, his development, and I think that him learning from Anquan will be a great thing for the 49ers franchise. And I also think that there is no chance that he has a setback. If he can stay healthy and do the things that he needs to do, I think he'll thrive with all those weapons out there in San Francisco. Also, coming in at number 9, Andre Johnson. Andre Johnson he's been for the last decade one of the top 2-3 wide receivers in the game. You know he's coming. You know there's nothing you can do to stop it. A lot of teams prepare for it, but they just can't stop it. Andre Johnson is a big, physical, strong receiver. He grabs a lot of those balls out the air, snatches them with great fervor and great. It's a great strength. You know, you can't teach some of the things that he does. He doesn't body catch the ball a lot. He separates well from defenders, but the only thing with him, the last few seasons, he's been hampered by hamstring and leg injuries. Those are some of the worst things a wide receiver can go through. He needs to stay healthy. He needs to get in better shape and take care of his body. But I think that he'll have another productive season in 2013. And the last receiver on this list, I hate the Cowboys, but I must give props where props are due. Dez Bryant. Dez Bryant last year towards the end of the season showed me that he was focused on being better. This offseason, we've seen Tony Romo speak about being a better quarterback, speak about being a better leader, and I think it's rubbing off on Dez Bryant. If Dez Bryant can stay out of trouble off the field, he could be a dynamic receiver on the field. I think that he can do nothing but get better. He has high expectations in Dallas. He has a contract year coming up. So I think that you will see Dez Bryant's greatest wide out season ever for a Dallas Cowboys receiver. I'm predicting that Dez Bryant has at least 10 touchdowns this season. I think that their schedule is a little tough, but I think that throughout the year, he will make big catches and get a lot more yards and a lot more touchdowns he's ever gotten, because him and Tony Romo will be on the same page. Having Murray as running back, if he can stay healthy, having Miles Austin, if he can be healthy, will be a great help to him. This has been a top 10. I'm going to name a couple that missed the list, and I'm just going to run down a couple. Larry Fitzgerald. His offensive line scares me. Having Carson Palmer is an upgrade than what he had last year in Cobb and all those no-name guys. But Larry Fitzgerald is an elite receiver, but he just doesn't have the offensive line to get him the ball. I've been disappointed year in and year out with the Cardinals franchise, because you have a top 10 wideout of all time on your team, but you just can't get him the ball. For that reason, I don't put him on this list. Only not because of anything Larry Fitzgerald has done. It's only because of that offensive line and that franchise's lackluster need to get offensive help for him. I feel like he could be the top receiver in the game if he had a better offensive line, because you can't blame Larry Fitzgerald for this, but if he did have a better line, he'd be number 2 on this list. Also, Vincent Jackson. Vincent Jackson just missed the list because at times he could be inconsistent. He could drop a couple of passes. We saw him last year drop key passes in key situations. If he improves that, he'll be on the list next year. Hakeem Nicks of the New York Giants. He's injury prone, but he plays well when he is on the field, and he does have those injuries. So I think that having Eli Manning is a solid quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the game right now, will also help him. Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson quit, and I was very disappointed last season when he quit on Andy Reid and the Eagles. I think that if he loses the diva mentality and really works hard and focuses, he could be one of the best wide receivers in the game. Victor Cruz. Victor Cruz just missed this list. With him having contract struggles with the New York Giants and not being signed long term, that's the only reason I didn't put him on this list. I don't know if he'll start the season. I don't know if he'll be a Giant throughout the whole season. So that's the only reason why I didn't put him on this list, because you can't tell if he's missing mini camps, he's missing OTAs. It's just one of those Darrelle Revis situations where he comes in and he may have a hamstring injury. He may be slow throughout the first part of the season. That's the only reason I didn't put him on here. And also, Danny Amendola. Going to Tom Brady in New England, he will be motivated to do a lot of great things to try to replace Wes Welker. But I've never seen Danny Amendola healthy for a full season. I know last year he came on in a lot of those games where we saw St. Louis Rams play. He got hurt a lot. He even broke his collarbone on the Thursday night game that they played, that they won. So a lot of these receivers, if they improve or if they have improvements on their team, they could be on this list. The only receiver that deserves to be on this list that didn't make it is truly Larry Fitzgerald. Check me out at justmypicks.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at justmypicks.tv. You can also check me out on this video and all my other videos on YouTube /justmypicks.tv. Thank you very much for subscribing, and please comment.